In this tutorial, I'm just going to show you how I organize my channels to get the best workflow and to make it a bit more pretty and easy on the eye in the mixer, not get a bit too confusing. Ways to make my workflow seems to work better this way. Just thought I'd pass on what I do. So I've just created 15 channels here, just to blank channels, nothing in, just to show you how my routing and grouping etc. goes, and maybe you could learn something on the way. First of all, I like to label my channels, and to do that, just double click and you can come in here and change the name. So let's call this kick 1, for example, kick 2. If we're layering some kicks, we might have snare 1, snare 2, clap, hi-hat. Again, I'm just making some channel names up just for the tutorial, just so you can see. You might have synth 1, synth line 2, baseline, might be sub, and we might have some like sampled audio, I don't know, some effects, might have some white noise. I'm just making channels up, and we might have a vocal. Now let's create a couple more actually, 3 more, and we might have backing vocal 1. Oh, I've changed them all. Backing vocal 2, and we might have like some ad libs. I don't know. So, for example, this is just a basic idea, just to show you ways you can group things and allow them to be manipulated as a whole and individually. So what you can do is you can select certain channels and send their output to a bus, and so these can be manipulated individually, and then the bus can be what manipulates them as a whole. Or you can also create groups. So in this dark grey box above where you read and write automation selection button is, you can click and assign it a group. So for example, I'll just show you how these groups work. You might want to group 1, and this pops up. Now if you look at it, you can name it. So we might name our group kicks, and we might want these groups, if we edit one of them, it edits them all. So maybe pan, your solo, and your sends. So if we decide to send a channel to it, send an effect to it, then it will happen on them all. So now I've selected that. If I turn the volume down this, it will change on that. Pan on that will change it on that, and it will affect both of these at the same time. So if I created a send 1 in each of these, turn one of them up, it will turn the other one up. So now they're linked in effect. But if you can add individual inserts, you can change compressions and EQ settings on any individual ones, and they will work as a couple. Now sometimes that you don't really want that. You can just literally come into the group, so open group settings, and you can turn it off. Once you've turned it off, you can manipulate them individually. Now you can turn it off as well by holding the Alt key, just like how you can turn off inserts and sends etc. within the mixer. You can turn them back on if you just needed to quickly turn one down. That's one way of doing it. You could literally group the claps and the snares together, and then group them all up so they're like this. What I like to do, it's a bit long-winded compared to this. Let's turn this off. Is I like to have complete control of each individual channel, and then I like to send them to a bus where I can manipulate as a whole. So for example, I might choose these two, send the output of these to say bus 10. Now if we come down here to the right, our bus 10's come in. Now I might change this to kicks. Then I will go to snares and claps I will tend to put together. I'll send the output of these to maybe bus 11. Come to the end, bus 11, and I might put snares, claps. Now I'll do this with them all, but I'll put them in certain groups, so I'll put the percussions together. I will probably have multiple hi-hat channels that I'd probably group, send to a bus as well, so I would bus them to 12. Then maybe percussion, bust that out to 13. Then you might want your synth lines to be together. Then you might want your bass line and your sub together. So when I say bass line, I mean like my higher end bass line layer that will run alongside my sub maybe. You might want your sampled audio and your white noise might be just little effects that you might want to group together. Just put in there. Then all your vocals together. Now, so once that's happened, we can then maybe change the colours of these just so a bit more recognisable, as they obviously come out as the same colour as the buses for your effects. Now, what you could do as well is maybe I might want my kick and my bass line to maybe go through another bus. So maybe bus 20, come down here and we go kick and bass, and you might want to compress them together to make them feel a bit tighter, etc. But you can start piecing together groups on groups, or buses on buses. So your kicks will go into there, they'll come out of there into bus 20 alongside your bass line. So there's ways in doing this, and I prefer to go this route, busing my channels to create a better workflow. Once I've got, so then I can work in sections, I can work here, get a nice little mix here, then I can get my overall mix of each section and then work my way down, rather than be all over the show, not knowing where I am. And literally this is my way I work, and it just seems to be a lot less confusing for me. I can send them all out into their own little groups and bang, rather than coming in and actually having groups within Logic. Gets a bit confusing. You could have two kicks there and accidentally have a kick down there, and you might turn that down, it starts turning down others, and it gets a bit confusing. So I find this way is much better for me, to send the output to a bus, start labeling my buses, then if I add a kick further down the line, I know that I can add it to bus 10. If you label your channels like I've done here, when you go into the buses section, they're already labeled for you. If you look, they're already labeled for you, kicks, snare scraps, so I know where I'm going. I haven't got to remember what bus I've put certain things, it'll already tell me what they're called. And it's pretty straightforward, pretty quick way, pretty more laid out and ease of use for me. My workflow seems to work a lot better this way. So that was just a quick little video to show you how my workflow goes through my mixer, and hopefully it helps and gives you a bit of inspiration to tidy up your mixers and your workflow.